Masked Deuce, stranded on a mysterious island in the East Blue, begins writing about a man who burned through life like living fire. The island's strange currents trap ships and anyone who lands there, leaving Deuce hungry, frustrated, and worried his dream of becoming a great adventurer author will never come true. Then, a small boat suddenly crashes onto the shore. From it steps a fearless, grinning young man in a cowboy hat, Ace. Unlike Deuce, Ace isn't worried about being trapped. He casually suggests they just sail away.
Ace laughs at Deuce's crude boat and proposes they build a proper one together. Though Deuce warns that the island's harsh currents destroy anything that isn't perfectly made, he agrees to try. As they gather materials from a wrecked ship, Deuce admits he abandoned his real name and wears a mask while chasing his dream of becoming a writer, studying every book he could find. When he brings up wild tales like the Island of Giants, he recalls being ridiculed for believing them. Ace doesn't laugh. He says if the currents are strong enough, it might even carry them somewhere that incredible. Hearing that, Deuce realizes Ace doesn't see the world as a cage, but as an adventure waiting to happen.
While building their boat, Ace talks excitedly about legends like the ancient continent puller, keeping his spirits high despite their worsening hunger. They have almost no food or water, and after days of non-stop work, Deuce collapses from exhaustion, unable to understand how Ace keeps going without eating. Just as they're about to finish, a sudden storm destroys the boat. Deuce is devastated, convinced they've lost their only chance. But Ace, drenched and bruised, simply grins and says they'll just build an even better one. When Ace cheerfully suggests starting over, a desperate, exhausted Deuce finally snaps. Convinced that Ace's unnatural stamina proves he secretly hoarded rations from a recently ransacked shipwreck, Deuce angrily accuses him. After Ace calmly denies it, Deuce loses control and violently strikes him with a wooden club. Ace simply dashes off into the rain without retaliating, leaving a regretful Deuce to drop his weapon and collapse in despair over his shattered hopes and perceived betrayal. Suddenly, a massive, terrifying bird monster suddenly crashes down upon their shipwreck. Looming over a paralyzed Deuce, the beast's appearance triggers a sudden, shocking realization. The bird is the one that ransacked their food supply, not Ace. Just as the monster is about to strike, Ace leaks back into the fray, wielding a giant stone pillar. He smashes it down to block the beast, protecting the very man who just attacked him. When a stunned Deuce asks why he returned, Ace explained that he couldn't bear the thought of their final interaction being a bitter fight, not wanting those regrets to linger if one of them died. Stepping up to the beast, Ace delivers a massive, explosive punch directly to the monster's face. As the defeated bird retreats into the sky, a battered and tearful Deuce is overwhelmed with guilt. He realizes that despite his awful accusations and violent outburst, Ace never mocked him or abandoned him. Trying to move forward, a starving Deuce attempts to act tough. He then notices a small chest that the fleeing bird spat out into the wreckage. Opening it, he excitedly calls Ace over to reveal their surprising salvation, a large, strange-looking swirling fruit. Holding the strange, swirling fruit, the two argue over who should eat it to survive. They finally compromise, agreeing to split it exactly in half and take a bite at the exact same time. The fruit tastes completely atrocious, but it immediately restores their energy. Filled with renewed resolve, Deuce apologizes for his previous doubts and asks to help Ace build a new boat. Suddenly, Ace's body erupts into blazing flames. Deuce panics, but Ace quickly realizes the fire isn't burning him. Shooting a powerful blast of flames from his hand, Ace deduces he has eaten a mystical devil fruit, much like his little brother once did. Deuce finishes his half of the fruit to curb his hunger, noting that only the person who takes the very first bite gains the power. Seeing Ace standing confidently wreathed in flames, a newly inspired Deuce gets a brilliant idea. He immediately begins sketching plans for a paddle boat, declaring they can use Ace's new fire abilities as an engine to finally propel them off the hellish island. Putting their heads together, Deuce designs a small, efficient paddle boat while coaching Ace to use fine control over his flames to power the engine without burning the wood. They finish building just in time, toasting to their success as the giant bird monster returns with an entire flock. Launching their new boat, the Striker, they speed out onto the ocean waves. As the birds swoop down to attack, Ace brazenly uses the life-or-death moment to officially invite Deuce to be his first crewmate. Before Deuce can fully process the crazy timing, Ace unleashes his devastating new signature move, a colossal fire fist, completely obliterating the flock in a spectacular explosion. Awestruck by Ace's power and realizing a pirate's life would provide endless stories for his journal, Deuce happily accepts. Speeding away from the hellish island, Deuce officially claims the name Masked Deuce, establishing himself as the first mate to the ace of the newly formed Spade Pirates. Time passes, and the Spade Pirates claw their way through the Grand Line, gathering a larger ship and a lively crew. During a party, a determined ace reveals his ultimate ambition. Once they enter the New World, he plans to aim for the very top by taking down the living legend who once rivaled the Pirate King. Meanwhile, deep in the New World aboard a massive whale-shaped ship, that very legend, the great pirate Whitebeard, smiles as he hears reports of a spirited young upstart who is making serious waves across the seas.